Greetings, welcome to Truth Sentinel, watching over the truth in the news. Hope you're well. I'm not ready as usual, just rushed in here with a cup of tea and totally not ready, but doesn't really matter, does it? Because we're just going to have some fun and talk about the news as usual. Seth will be joining me later. Hopefully he's listening on the side at the moment. Thank you, Gormonger2. Good to see you, Hot Retarded Chicks, and everyone else in the chat at the moment. Today we're going to have another call-in show. Lots been happening in the world. Sorry it's been a while, actually. There's been a few... hi there, James. There's been a few things going on in the background here. Lots of work and foot problems and illnesses. Sometimes it's not always easy to do this, but it's been a month or a month and 2 weeks, I think. Hello, Honestly the Truth, and hope everyone's feeling good. It's good to have you listening to us. I'm going to do the usual run through of things that have caught my eye in the news, and then I'll bring Seth in. So let's get straight down to it. Just to remind you, this is a call-in show, so I'll share the link later. And if anyone wants to come and join us and give your comments, just try and get a headset or something ready. We'll do that sort of in about 20 minutes or so, and then you can come and join us. But you can also just bring stuff up in the comments that you want us to comment on. Today I was going to talk about the kind of things I was going to mention today with the Artemis rocket. The reason I was going to mention that was because partly because I've been looking at this with interest. Because for many years I've been interested in kind of Bible prophecy and things like that, and there's two things I've always looked at, and that's the mark of the beast. Obviously, that's one of the most interesting things in Revelation, but also another one, this wormwood star that's supposed to fall from the sky in the end of days. And thanks, Kieran. Let's face it, it does feel like we're in the end of the world at the moment. And did you know that the Artemis rocket is actually named Wormwood? Yeah, wormwood, it comes from the Artemisia family. It's a plant, and that basically, in English, is Artemis, also named after a Greek goddess. But that Artemis rocket is basically called Wormwood. So as soon as we do seem to be in the end times, I'd say keep an eye on that rocket. But Chernobyl in Ukraine is also named after wormwood. So there's two things to look out for. Of course, you might think that Bible prophecy is a load of old bonkers, but well, you might think I'm bonkers, I don't know. Anyway, the mark of the beast. Let's talk about that briefly. At the G20 conference, they were talking about a vaccine passport. They're still talking about that, and they've agreed on something. And I guarantee you it will be put on the hand or the forehead, whether because it's fulfilling prophecy or whether because they're trying to make it fulfill prophecy. It could be a self-fulfilling one. I'm going to read those excerpts from the Bible. Actually, something we rarely do on Truth Sentinel is read the Bible, but let me do that now before I go through some other news that caught my eye. So here's the mark of the beast one. He causes all, both great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That's the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man. Its number is 666. I'm sure most people are familiar with that one. The next one is... let me just read this. Revelation 16:1. The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly and painful sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast. That's kind of interesting for me, because let's say the mark of the beast is the vaccine passport, and we know what vaccines have been doing. It stands to reason that the people who've had the mark or the vaccine might break out in sores, and that's exactly what it says here. They break out in ugly and painful sores, are the people who had the mark of the beast. Let me just read about Wormwood Star. So I think this is Revelations 8:10. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood, or Artemisia, or Artemis, or Chernobyl. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that became bitter. Now, it does kind of make you think, well, Chernobyl is a nuclear reactor, so could something happen there? Or could this rocket that's going up have a dangerous payload on it? Who knows? Anyway, there's been lots of meetings going on recently. The G20, what's that, COP26, or is it COP27? I did write it down somewhere. Let me just scan through my notes. I did make it, COP27, yeah. They've been meeting to decide what's going to happen to everyone, and they've been looking at introducing social credit system where we can all track our climate footprint, carbon footprint. Other things that I've seen in the news are Trump has been allowed back on Twitter, but Alex Jones hasn't. And strangely, Alex Jones is actually defending Elon Musk about not allowing him back on Twitter. Alex Jones sometimes surprises me with some of the people he allies with, Trump and Elon Musk. But I still think he's probably doing more than good, actually, during the pandemic, at least, anyway. Senses, you sent me some music. I'll try and play that during the interlude today. I chose one about science. Science is the new religion, I think it was called, which does seem to be the case at the moment. Science does seem to be a bit of a religion. So maybe today we'll talk a bit about the World Economic Forum. I might come back to some of the things I've just mentioned. The Zelensky missile, the one that went and hit Poland, and Zelensky said, hey, we better start World War III. Russia's just bombed Poland. And everyone else was like, it doesn't seem to be Russian. It seems to be, well, it's a Russian missile, but it seems to have been fired by Ukrainian forces. So Zelensky just seems out of control to me. But personally, I do think they actually want World War III and maybe want it to go nuclear. I know some of you out there might not even believe in nuclear weapons. That's another conspiracy theory. But okay, let's say giant bombs then. Right. You're bloody well right. You've got a bloody right to say. You're bloody well right. You have got a right to say. Okay, fair enough. That's a nice comment. Artemis, yeah, hot retarded chicks. Artemis, or Artemisia, is the plant called wormwood. So Seth's here. I'm going to bring Seth in a moment. Let me just see if who's in the chat. Looks like everyone can hear me. Welcome everyone. Let me know what you want to talk about, and generally just chat about what's happening in the news. Let me just go to the BBC website before I bring Seth in and just see what's going on. Hang on a second. I swear StreamYard have changed. Yeah, no, they haven't. That's just me going crazy. Hang on a second. Okay, here we are. So there we go. NASA's Artemis moon rocket lifts off Earth. So that's gone somewhere. Whether it's gone to the moon or not is another question. I know there's a lot of you out there don't even believe we can go to the moon, and to be honest, I may join you on that one. I'm not totally convinced we ever did. I'm not totally convinced. Everything about space is what we've been told. I always keep an open mind to everything. I'll try to. Just keep an open mind, I would say. Never put all your eggs in one basket. So COP27, BBC's all about 5 key takeaways from COP27. Whatever they're talking about, I just know it's not going to be something good that will come out of it for the rest of us. Whatever the agenda they're planning, it just doesn't seem to be anything that's going to benefit mankind. That's my opinion, and probably some of you agree with me. Let's see. Dozens of explosions near occupied nuclear site. Let's have a look at that. Ah, that's another nuclear site. I was just talking about Chernobyl. Don't ask me to pronounce this one. Okay, I'm going to try. Zaporizhzhia. No, I can't pronounce that. Explosions at occupied nuclear site in Ukraine. So you can see how close it is to some of these nuclear sites actually becoming possibly coming into a dangerous situation. This one was in southern Ukraine. I think Chernobyl is kind of southwest, I believe. My geography's never been that good though. Let's just have a quick scan through on the general news. It's all about climate change. A bit about Ukraine there. We will rebuild Val's of flattened Mariupol. It's definitely over the last week they've been trying to make out as a massive victory in Ukraine. I'm sad to say I don't think it's going to be that simple, and I reckon it's probably going to be escalated soon. Let's see, anything else going on? There's the World Cup coming up, of course. Russian soldiers shot after surrendering. That's no surprise, is it? It's actually even surprising the BBC have mentioned that. They're quite happy to mention things on the other side. But I've noticed the BBC, when it comes to Russian soldiers being shot, they ask questions. It's their way of saying we're not sure. But when it comes to printing or Ukrainian propaganda, they don't ask questions. They just make statements. It's a subtle thing they do, the BBC. Anything else? There's stuff about elections there. Of course, there's been the midterm elections that have gone on in the US. Maybe we can ask Seth about that in a minute. There is one thing I'm just going to show before I bring Seth in, which is this. A lot of people have been dropping down dead again. Of course, it's no surprise to some of us, because of course we know what's going on. Here we are, COVID vaccine. Children in West Yorkshire get first dose. This also happened in East Yorkshire in the UK. And I checked, also a place called Wakefield. So you can see there, these kids getting jabbed. Of course, the jab is very good for you. So, of course, we do think that vaccines are amazing things to get. By the way, a lot of my episodes are being deleted one by one, going back many years. I just had a episode deleted that I did with a guy called Ty Bollinger, where we discussed the idea that the cure for cancer has been suppressed. Of course it has, so this one will probably be deleted too, but that was deleted the other day, and YouTube said it was medical misinformation. Surely the idea that the cure for cancer has been suppressed is an opinion. It's not medical misinformation. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought now. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I talked about the Wakefield school, and then look, let's go to that school. I actually did this the opposite way around the other day. I saw this article first. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right article. I saw this article the other day. Just a second. Let me get this sorted out. The other day, I saw this article, which I'm going to show you now. As soon as I can find the right button to press. Yeah, here we go. Tragedy as Yorkshire girl 10 dies from brain hemorrhage after collapsing in school. I think she was only 10 or 11. It said in another article 11. She dies from a brain hemorrhage. They have no idea why. She's fully fit. Had no problems before. But she was at Wakefield School, yeah, and I thought to myself, well, I'm almost certain I know how she died, and I'm not even a doctor. I have no medical experience, and yet straight away I know why this girl died. And of course, they're all going to deny it. And this video will probably get deleted if they use their algorithms to search any speech about jabs. But so what I did is I looked at what her school, where her school is, Wakefield. You can see here. I checked on the internet, Wakefield School, and it was one of those schools in West Yorkshire, or East Yorkshire. It was one of the schools where the vaccines have been rolled out first. So that's it's just ridiculous to me. I'm just surprised a lot more parents aren't sort of speaking out, although I know there are some. Let's bring Seth in and see how he's getting on and what he thinks of the midterm elections and anything else that I brought up, or maybe he has. I'm sure he has some stuff of his own to say. And then, of course, keep your comments coming in because we want to see what you're interested in talking about. Let's see. Polish-Ukraine border is the most monitored airspace on Earth. The Pentagon will have real-time data and lying by omission. Everybody's lying. Just about everyone is lying. Let's just see any more. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to bring Seth in anyway. Let's see. Seth. Let me unmute Seth. Your mic isn't connected, Seth, by the way, it says here. There we go. I can hear you now.
Cool.
Seth, how are you?
Oh, pretty good yourself.
I think I can hear you. Hang on a sec.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Aha, wonderful.
So, Seth, how are you?
Living, man. Living the dream. Set up shop, different place, moved. A lot of shit's changed in life. Just making it work.
Yeah. Things. Sometimes we've all got our things going on in the background in our lives. Me too. But yeah, you've literally had to move house. And how is the new place you've arrived at?
Decent. We're still in the process of getting set up and getting an actual little house and stuff. But making it work in the meantime. Living out of a fifth wheel and all that, and just trying. Gypsy life, man. Gypsy life.
Sometimes I think that might be the best life, downsizing.
Oh, I can thoroughly tell you from experience that it is not something I would necessarily recommend for most people.
It depends what you mean by the gypsy life. I mean, I'm thinking of a log cabin in the forest or something like that.
Oh, I'm thinking more like living out of a caravan and stuff.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah.
yeah. More the traditional UK definition of gypsy life, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I hope at least it has brought you slightly closer to nature in some way.
It definitely has, and has absolutely
Maybe
made
too
me feel
close.
a lot safer in terms of living environment and everything like that. So that's been really nice. But I've got a bit of news to discuss with you and whatnot. I was very interested in what you were talking about earlier and how that ties in with one of the articles I have here about world leaders signing a declaration for a vaccine passport related to, the jibby jab.
Yeah, well, one of the comments here, Lavrov's remarks on the politician's rhetoric after leaving the G20 summit, salient phrase, aliens soul darkness, especially the soul of the European Union, there is dense darkness. Well, I'm not sure what that exactly means, but there have been a lot of summits going on. So why don't we move into what you were just talking about, your article?
Well, we've got this here out of sydneycriminallawyers.com.au. World leaders signed declaration to introduce COVID vaccine passports. At this year's G20 summit in Indonesia, the 20 participating world leaders signed a declaration to introduce vaccine passports for their respective jurisdictions, with the stated intention of creating a global verification system to facilitate safe international travel. Oh, fucking wonderful. The G20, which stands for Group of 20, is an assembly of governments and leaders from 20 of the world's largest economies and includes Australia. The members are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the European Union. Typically, the summit discusses issues of global importance, so it is perhaps no surprise that COVID-19 was a particular focus of this year's summit. Commitment to vaccines. In a statement, the leaders affirmed their respective countries' support for the World Health Organization mRNA Vaccine Technology Transfer Hub, which aims to build a capacity of low and middle income countries to produce mRNA vaccines. Lovely. The leaders said they would welcome joint production and research of vaccines and acknowledge the importance of shared technical standards and verification methods. They also agreed to a globalized vaccination passport. Vaccination passport to be introduced next year. Oh, lovely. While the details are scant at this stage, the statement says it will be done under the framework of the international health regulations to facilitate seamless international travel and interoperability and recognizing digital solutions and non-digital solutions, including proof of vaccinations. Indonesia's health minister, Budi Gunadi Sadikin, said that the digital health certificate using World Health Organization standards would be introduced during the next World Health Assembly in Geneva in May next year. Quote, if you have been vaccinated or tested properly, you can move around. So for the next pandemic, instead of stopping the movement of people 100%, you can still provide some movement of the people, Mr. Sadikin said.
Seth, so what does that mean for the people who aren't vaccinated?
That will essentially be, how would you say this, locked down, prison style. So they're going to create a two-tiered system of society, almost like a haves and have-nots. But again, so many of the people that are behind this will tell you capitalism is evil, fascism is evil,
Wait a minute,
totalitarianism and authoritarianism are evil.
I thought society was all about equality these days.
Yeah, they certainly like to make it seem so, isn't it?
But wait a minute, Seth. This is to keep us safe, though, isn't it? Right? By locking us in our homes.
You're right. I mean, eventually they're going to have to take everybody's guns to keep us safe. Eventually they're going to have to take everybody's money to keep us safe and then spend it for you to make sure that you're safe. So, of course, you're not even going to need money anymore. After a while, you're just going to need to live in a pod and then, die eventually without having done anything in your entire life and just waiting.
Well, it certainly worked during the last 3 years when they locked everyone down and people started committing suicide and people still got sick and died. And
well, Scott, as long as it's people like you and I committing suicide, I don't think they really mind. In fact, I think that actually might be part of the plan.
Surely they just need to get to know us.
Yeah,
once they get to know us,
it's not like they are sad about people killing themselves that are their minions, are their part and parcel little sheeple people running around out there. But people that refuse to be a part of the lie, those people tend to be in the way.
I think they're actually going down the route of killing people as another way to keep people safe. Because did you see in Canada they now have got these suicide pods where they can lovingly slip away.
Though, to be honest, I don't really have a particular giant thing against euthanasia, as I do definitely feel that for people in general, the idea that killing yourself is illegal and is something that the government is going to punish somebody for doing is absolutely asinine, in my opinion, and is a great example
I agree,
of morality.
But in the current climate we're living in, where they're trying to kill everyone, it's a bit weird how they're all of a sudden kind of promoting these suicide pods.
That's because you and I know that no matter what they do, it's not actually governed by actual empathy or compassion. I mean, between you and I think that there's very straight up cases, especially for people that either have a terminal illness or in excruciating amounts of pain that you or I literally cannot comprehend right now, to help them end their life. Also, the idea that people are in control of their own bodies and in control of their own destiny, their own soul and whatnot. So the idea that somebody could kill themselves, and that's a choice we just have to respect because, what are you going to do about it? Definitely seems like something that is based in actual empathy and giving a crap about somebody. Because if you're not free to end your own life, you ain't free. And I know that that might sound ridiculous. And of course, people that are in control of our government, in control of our system, want people to end their own lives, or unalive, as they could say there, because it's convenient to their particular agenda of lowering global population. But that still doesn't mean that it can't have something of actual morality to it. It's just their version of morality always be twisted because it's never governed by actual care.
Well, it's always
governed by bug brain type stuff.
this is twisted. I don't know if this is true. Well,
Yeah.
in some ways, it may well be true. In the comments, the irony is you can't get assisted suicide if you're not vaccinated. I mean, in some ways, that might actually turn out to be true, because if you can't go to your national health service and get into the hospital if you're not vaccinated or something like that, then you might not actually
Well, that's
be
because people like
eligible
us
for
know how to do it ourselves, damn it. We don't need any help from any outside government agency. Don't worry, that's why they'll try and take the guns away from you eventually, so it'll be harder to do it. And then they'll take the rope, and then they'll ban the knives, they'll ban the pills, they'll ban anything other than you living in a tiny little pod with a straitjacket on,
I think
operating
they're going to
everything
make
with
it too
movements of your
easy.
eyes.
They're going to make it too easy for people. I was listening to a case the other day, and this is after it's only just been introduced. I think it was in Canada, where a guy was eligible for assisted suicide, and he was granted this by a doctor who actually signed it off, and he actually said he doesn't want to die. He just can't pay his rent. But the doctor said, "Oh, that's a fair reason," and signed it off. So that just shows you it's already a complete mess, and
Yeah.
it's probably what they want. Well, not probably, it is what they want. They want to get rid of as many they can that way voluntarily. It reminds me of when companies want to lay off staff. First they let go the ones that actually volunteer to go. So this is just how the government are looking at the genocide. It's like, first we'll just find the volunteers, and then we'll finish off people that didn't want to volunteer.
They are always going to play into the propaganda of the time. And the fact is, people overwhelmingly worldwide don't have some giant sense of ideological patriotism. And so, especially in the West, they can't really use that to get huge armies of like several million people together to go run off and fight and die. And because of that, not having hundreds of thousands of dead on each side for different major large-scale wars and whatnot, their population has to be culled in a different way. And so, of course, they're going to go with something that is softer, easier, smoother. Just calm down. Let it happen. It's fine. Let the death wash over you. That sort of stuff, yeah, that definitely feels like what they're doing.
Talking of calming down and war, it does seem like every celebrity and world leader is still throwing money at Ukraine, and it seems like nobody actually wants the war to stop. Everyone's actually wants it to go on. I mean, what's the money for if not?
Seems like it's a giant money laundering campaign, doesn't it?
It does seem a little bit that way, but that's but you're talking about governments here, Seth. I mean, they're not corrupt.
Well, and it's definitely not like we've already said that Ukraine, even before Zelensky was in office, wasn't like one of the single most corrupt countries in the entire world when it comes to governance, period, point blank. I don't say this as some sort of way to crap on Ukrainian people, but just looking at how the government operates. When people, what was the last guy before Zelensky, the one that Yanukovych, right?
Yanukovych,
yeah. That guy was supposed to be like freaking like corruption central. And yet, it's different now. We got a U.S.-backed puppet regime in control now, and suddenly it's related to America and it's related to NATO and stuff. So now it's suddenly safe. I don't buy any of that crap. I don't buy any of that crap at all.
Look, I obviously I've got Ukrainian connections. My sister married a Ukrainian. I lived in Ukraine.
Well, like I said, it's not
a lot of my friends.
People, yo.
Yeah. No, I'm going to say the same thing, and I've got lots of Ukrainian friends. But I think even some of them will admit that Ukraine was and it still is riddled with corruption. It's not even just Ukraine. I mean, where I am now, it's not the most. Not everything's done by the book, and in some ways, it can actually have advantages sometimes. But it's just a fact, that corruption is everywhere. I would say corruption in Western countries just takes a different form, really. But
yeah.
There's no doubt it is corrupt. And here's Rishi Sunak, the new UK Prime Minister, who is basically is more of a puppet than any Prime Minister we've had. I heard him avoiding the question the other day of what constitutes a woman. He wouldn't answer. He wouldn't define a woman. So he's one of those people. He reminds me very much as a NPC and
like an Obama.
And he's one of the World Economic Forum leaders, and he was hanging out with Klaus Schwab the other day.
He's an international man with no
Exactly.
ties to no particular land, no particular people, man. So it's all ideological, which could have its advantages for certain people in certain situations, but in this particular one, it's definitely not to ours.
Seth, what did you think about so the other day I noticed this girl dropped dead, sadly. Doctors are baffled, and straight away I went and checked her school, and they were one of the first schools giving out vaccinations to under 12s. Seth, obviously it's not the jabs that did it, so what could it be?
I'm sure it's just SIDS. It's just, it lasts longer now. And then instead of sudden infant death, it's now going to be SCDS. It's going to be sudden child death syndrome, because there's sudden adult death
could
syndrome
it be
now.
the climate change thing that everyone's talking about?
You're right. It could have been the climate. It changed so much that she couldn't keep up with it. The rest of us and our bodies are rapidly evolving and changing, but the climate changed too fast for her. And
could it be exam stress, or could it?
No, it was stress over climate change. It was stress over climate change.
Long COVID? Maybe she got COVID a couple of years ago, and it's like starting to kick in.
It was the unvaccinated. Between you and I, that is exactly who had to cause this. It is exactly who had to be responsible for all of it. It was an unvaccinated person. Them not being vaccinated like several miles away from her, put it into the wind. Then the wind carried it all the way to her, gave her the long COVID Delta Omega Beta Y dot 5.6 exactly variant. You understand.
Hot retarded chicks thinks it could be the Wi-Fi that did it.
The Wi-Fi, indeed.
Yeah, you could have a point there, hot retarded chicks. I did remember. I did learn your name once. I can't remember what it was. So sorry to keep calling you a hot retarded chick.
Somebody once brought up to me, and I don't know how much we can discuss here on this podcast without getting certain things taken down, but that the Wi-Fi interacts with a certain something that people have been mandated to get across the board, and that's actually what's causing it, is interference, be it intentional or unintentional, of their entire control grid. And I think these people are very, very intentional in everything they do. And as much as they like to feign ignorance and just, how could we have ever known that was going to be the case? We are run by misanthropes.
I'm pretty sure hot retarded chicks it wasn't Mike though. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I was going to say
it could be German. That could be Mika. Okay, come on, Scott. Jeez.
Could be. She could be Mika one day, Michelle the next, Michael the next. We can be whatever we want these days.
Are you talking about the first lady? Come on now.
The first lady, has she changed sex then recently?
Oh no, with everybody with the Michelle Obama stuff, because like.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jill Biden. That actually wouldn't surprise me if she switched.
Yeah, slightly less. I mean, nobody has really looked the part quite like what is it? Roosevelt's wife, like Eleanor Roosevelt. Nobody else has quite looked the part when it comes to that. But honestly, I've always found the transvestigation stuff to be super trite.
Wait a minute. Ridiculous. What about George Bush? What about Barbara Bush?
Yeah, she looks like she could be related to him. That right there that's entirely. I don't have to be like a man to look like, oh no, that's some good old blue bloods right there. It's like when you see sometimes the royal family, you see all these other women that you got running around here, and then you see somebody like Princess Diana, and you're like, oh God, no, now it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense why they had to kill her. You didn't want them to be too normal looking. I mean, you got to have that purity in there. Some of the strong Anglo genes, as we call them.
Whew. Yes, indeed. So, on the subject we were talking about of people dropping down mysteriously, in the UK, it happens quite regularly now that people in the crowd at football matches will just, someone will drop down, and it never used to happen before the pandemic. Obviously, I'm baffled as the same as the doctors, but have you noticed, and I've even actually noticed people in my it's starting to affect my social circle. One person that I used to work with died of sepsis, which is a known side effect to the jabs, and also
which itself is really heavy, because before, the only people that were really dying of sepsis on any level were needle junkies. period, point blank, which alone should be really scary, considering that could imply alone that the people applying these life-saving jabs are also not so safe in how they're applying these life-saving jabs. That's a very mild take on this, if you wanted to have a take for normies. But I personally think that there's a little bit more at play here. Seems like an easy excuse
do go
for
on.
these people of a way to drop dead out of nowhere. And it's just suddenly. I think died suddenly has also become a thing with U.S. celebrities and international celebrities and athletes.
Lots of musicians.
All over the world.
Lots of musicians who have to get the safe and effective jab before they go on tour.
That have also died from pulmonary embolism. That have also died from suddenly just respiratory failure. They just
or get those paralysis on one side of their face, like Justin Bieber.
Yeah, or just random brain hemorrhage and dead right there. It happens.
We're going to get another episode deleted. Did I tell you I'm getting lots of episodes? They're not actually giving me strikes for them. They're just sending me messages saying we just deleted this because of medical misinformation.
I had a couple of those with my music, but I have a feeling that until they put their algorithm up a little bit more, because I didn't have video and whatnot, and because my audio recording quality is, let's just be real, dog shit for a lot of my music, that playing the music simultaneous to me saying stuff might have saved it a little bit until they update their algorithms enough to catch it. And then I'm probably in the exact same boat as you, bud. Honestly, why I wanted to start pushing into other music fields and stuff too, just so that I have something to fall back on, of even if it's just some freaking normie music. So that way, I'm not completely up a creek without a paddle.
Well, as you talked about music, this might be a good time to have an interval, and we've been sent another piece of music from a different listener this time. I haven't actually got their name, but it was Senses. If you're listening, Senses, you might not be listening live, but you may be listening to the recording. So I'm going to play that, and we'll have a few minute breaks. Everyone can get a cup of tea or something. And I'll also I've just posted the StreamYard link for anyone who wants to come and join us. Put a headset on, come and tell us what you think is going on in the world. And I'll play this music from one of our listeners called Senses in the meantime.
Things
So, I think we're back. A nice track, by the way, Senses. If you want to tell us your name, you're welcome. But I thought that was good, yeah, because religion truly has become a science. Everything's always settled with science, isn't it? You're not allowed to question science. In fact, it says here, trust the science is the most anti-science statement ever. Questioning science is how you do science. Exactly. Totally agree. What do you say to that, Seth?
Absolutely agree. I think that science has become scientism with a capital S. However, I also would always be wary with a lot of stuff that there are quite a few people out there that wish to use the attacks on science to completely disregard the positivities of science and the
Absolutely, yeah.
progress made because of science, and the idea that they're just attempting to cope with their own religious beliefs and whatnot coming into cognitive dissonance. And so by using the straw man of the science, which we can all see is absolutely BS, right? It's completely ridiculous that people have reached a point that as long as the scientists say or doctors say, that has become some sort of unquestioning, or government officials say has become some well, it's a new religion. It's literally word of God type level powerful is to somebody that's, let's say, is a Catholic, and the Pope says something and it's like, I feel because the Spirit of God and as the pontiff of Jesus Christ on earth, I have decided that this is what it is. And people will take that as the word of God and will roll with it, or people will take what's written in a book as the word of God and roll with it. It feels like we are living amongst a, a a cult, a society that is obsessed with cults of any kind. And it's something that's kind of hilarious to me is how often we'll hear people lash out at this group or that group of, it's like a cult. This is like a cult. That's like a cult. I'm like, well, that's because everything is essentially a cult, because people have tied up so much of their identity into these different group collectives rather than being individuals.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, you're right to say be careful you don't dismiss it all. It's a bit like during the pandemic, I've totally gone off the medical profession to the point where I've become almost anti-medical profession, and it's probably the wrong way to go. I mean, I
Yeah.
appreciate the basics. If you break your leg or something, go to hospital and you get taken care of. That's brilliant, and there has been major advancements made in medical
Yeah.
science as well.
Even in
But
like
at the
medication and
other end,
stuff like that.
there's corruption. It's like anything. There's a good side and there's corruptions. There's
Yeah.
corruption, and that's what we're talking about. Corruption in science, basically.
Well, and it is true corruption. It's in the same way that uh, human corruption, in a lot of ways, is what destroys a lot of the more beautiful things that happen within religion, too. Because there's a lot of stuff within religion that can be beautiful, that actually is bringing out the better sides of humanity. But human corruption, human influence, and just being what it is, man. People are who they are, and unfortunately, most people don't really change that much. You can, but it has to be like an actual effort given. And unfortunately, most of the people that are in control desire nothing more than naked power. That's it. It's what they want.
I'll
They
show
want
you
complete control.
what desires naked power. Because this fluffy animal behind me has really been trying to take over. I'm just gonna keep talking. I'm just gonna bring him over to see what his views are.
You're cool, man. Well, we also have a news article to discuss here. This is out of Russia Today. New Epstein documents unsealed. The paper names 8 people, including associates, alleged victims of notorious pedophile. 8 people. Scott, the black book thing that we covered before had the names of dozens and dozens and dozens of people. And yet now suddenly we get 8. We get a drip feed, a little tiny trickle from the Justice Department. This seems absolutely insane. Federal judge in New York has ordered the release of a trove of documents naming associates of deceased pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, his longtime girlfriend, now serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. I love that associates of deceased pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know, man. The more time goes by, the more I really question that deceased idea, because it's
I
not
think we
like they would
questioned
at
that
all.
from the beginning, though, didn't we?
Yeah,
Really?
it's not like they would ever fake doing this and have one of their boys just not go home to what everyone calls Pedo Island. Or hell, he could. He literally could. And what are you or I or anybody going to do to stop him? What are the people that live right next to Little St. James and stuff? What are they going to do to stop him? I mean, really, if the system wants this stuff, they're in control. They've got the power. Anybody that's like asinine enough to somehow, or arrogant enough to somehow think that they're going to do something to change this is fooling themselves. I have no problem talking about it, but it's just it's ridiculous when people want to be like, well, there's no way they could fake that. There's no way they could stage it when we
It'd be
both
very
know
easy.
otherwise.
It'd be very easy, and I don't think everyone knows that someone like Epstein would have had. He knows that he would be a prime target to be killed any time in his life because of he was taking
Blackmail.
video
Yeah.
of very rich and powerful people. He would have told them all. If any one of you ever touches me, be sure to know that videos will be released.
Yeah, not just
On
on
my
you, but
death.
on anybody that's associated with you, to the point that they're going to know that it's because of you that this has been released and you're going to be destroyed too. This None of these people seem like stupid people. You don't really get in positions of control and power like this in society being a moron. You feel me? While a lot of the politicians might seem like a bunch of clowns that are at the top of this, the real people running the like reins of power are not stupid people. And hell, a lot of the politicians are a lot less stupid than they portray to the public, because that's one of the big go-tos that you'll see in left-wing and right-wing politics, is to portray the opposition as stupid. They're just so dumb. How could they ever? Joe Biden, he's just an idiot. I'm like, he's an idiot that's getting paid like what? Tens of thousands of your tax dollars every single year, and getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in benefits every single year for him and his family. Then, not to mention anything when it comes to government contracts, the ability to keep the Justice Department from destroying him and his son, all sorts of stuff like that. That just, oh, yeah, whatever. But he's the moron. He's the moron at the reins of power. Yeah. We got, what is it? More of the Epstein stuff. Documents were filed in 2016 defamation case against Maxwell by alleged victim Virginia Roberts Giffrey. The case was later settled out of court, as was Giffrey's 2021 lawsuit against Britain's Prince Andrew. Judge Loretta Preska ruled that the documents named 8 John Does could be released, and that the public interest outweighed the privacy rights of these anonymous individuals. Fox News reported 2 of these individuals are alleged victims of Epstein who have already gone public with their accusations. One, Emmy Taylor, filed a lawsuit this summer against a journalist who described her as a co-conspirator of Epstein and Maxwell. The other, Sarah Ransom, published a book about her experience as a quote-unquote sex toy on Epstein's infamous private island. A confirmed victim, quote, who continues to experience trauma will remain nameless, Preska ruled. One of the individuals named is Tom Pritzker, a billionaire hotel magnate and cousin of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. While Pritzker sued to keep his name from being released, Preska argued that he was not accused of any malicious actions and ordered it unsealed, according to Fox. Giffrey earlier claimed that she had been forced by Epstein and Maxwell to have sex with Pritzker, a claim the billionaire denied. Giffrey also accused Epstein's lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, who always seems to be in the news somehow, of raping her while she was underage. Dershowitz, of course, has denied the accusation and sued Giffrey for defamation. The pair settled out of court earlier this month, with Giffrey retracting her rape claim. A prominent socialite and financier, Epstein was jailed in 2008 for soliciting a child for prostitution. He was arrested again in 2019 and accused of sexually abusing dozens of underage girls, but was later found dead in his Manhattan jail cell before he could be brought to trial. Convenient. His death was officially ruled a suicide. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison in June on 5 charges related to the trafficking of underage girls for sex. She is currently appealing both the sentence and the guilty verdict. What do you have to say about that, Scott?
I would love to know. I would love to start hearing about the names of the people that went to Epstein Island and the crimes that went on there. Why is it just completely forgotten, and what none of the public the slightest bit interested in it, apart from obviously people like us, you know?
Because faux outrage is all the rage, man. And with the time when it comes out, there'll be a lot of people that, like all, goldfish, for about 8 seconds, give a damn. And I mean, that 8 seconds might be 8 minutes, 8 hours, 8 days, 8 weeks for some people, if we're really going to push it there. And they'll care. And then it'll just slip away like anything else, because we're talking about people that have a constant drip feed of information coming in and do not have the ability to hold on to any of this and have real discernment. And so they constantly go back to the trough that was feeding them poison in the first place. And they'll be outraged when they find that they were being fed poison from the trough. But then after some time goes by, they'll get hungry again and go right back to it. It honestly is one of the things of why, like, we need to get in our heads on some level. You can't save people. We can't save them. No matter how
Can't
much our
save them, yeah.
activism is going, we can't save them. It's a full-time job to try and save yourself,
I
man.
gave up.
And
I
if
gave
you're a
up trying
Christian,
to
then
do
you
that.
believe
Yeah.
that you can't save yourself either, and it's only the Lord Jesus Christ who can save your soul. But for the rest of us, hey, man,
People need to work it out for themselves. You can
yeah,
try, but no, it's almost like a way of thinking rather than an opinion. You just, I don't know. There's just no way to do it. But I just wanted to quickly say that everyone listening on Truth Sentinel YouTube channel or on Facebook, because I'm streaming to the Truth Sentinel Facebook page as well, can switch to the main channel, because I think the chat's probably not quite the same. I don't know that it's all coming through to one chat. So I'm just going to post if it is coming through, then I'm posting the link to the main Truth Sentinel 2 channel now. And if you're somewhere else and you want to click on that, you can actually come to the main channel. I always put the main show on Truth Sentinel 2 because there's more listeners on here. Anyone who does want to join us, I've posted the link in the chat as well if you want to come and say hi. Keep your comments coming in. To be honest, we're probably only going to go for another 10 minutes because these days I have to work on a Monday
and trying
morning.
to go to bed at like midnight or something like that instead of
It's midnight now, actually, in Thailand, and I have to actually, unfortunately, I've my job's changed, so I have to actually wake up early in the morning, which is
Sorry,
it's not for me. I'm not an early bird, to be honest. It destroys me. But
I'll try and make it quick then with what I got.
no. I'm just saying we've got about another 10 minutes. So
Okay.
anyone who wants to join us, do it now. And Seth, yeah, please carry on.
We've got something out of East Bay Times right here, but I mean, it could be any news outlet looking for it. There's the new Pulse nightclub shooting. This is at Club Q. 5 dead, 18 hurt in Colorado Springs gay nightclub shooting, police say. Authorities received a report of a shooting at Club Q at 11:57 p.m. Saturday. An attacker opened fire at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs late Saturday, killing 5 people, wounding 18. The club said the suspect was subdued by patrons. Colorado Springs Police Chief Adrian Vasquez identified the suspect as 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich at a news conference Sunday morning. Investigators recovered 2 guns on the scene and said Aldrich had been using a long gun during the stuff. So, of course, again, they're going to try and go after rifles with the exact same way they did the Pulse nightclub shooting. Same script, different day. And, again, if people died during this, my heart's open, that's sad. It's really messed up if there's a bunch of people that were killed by some psycho with a gun and whatnot. And at bare minimum, if that is the case, then, of course, the government's going to jump on this as an attempt to try and take people's weapons. If this is entirely the crisis actors stuff and whatnot, then it really is same shit, different day. And I don't think that that's anything new. We've been dealing with this for quite a while. But just be prepared for that, because this Club Q thing is going to be the new Pulse nightclub shooting, and the Pulse nightclub stuff, they use that for every single thing they could get out of it, man.
Yeah,
and
I did see that.
It's one of the things I also saw people that get upset with the victim stuff, of that act like that with like the Sandy Hook stuff, that you're like shaming the victims or something like that, is that you asking questions and you being skeptical because of a known history and a shown history of the United States government doing false flag events to try and coming up with plans and being shown to come up with plans for entire false flag events in order to justify their domestic and foreign policy. You would be a literal moron to believe that they wouldn't do it now. Or
that's true. Although, sometimes I think people get a bit too obsessed with the idea that they're crisis actors. Because I think if the government are going to use a false flag event, they're going to really kill people because they don't care about people.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they'll take the risk on using actors. They'll say, "Nah, let's make it as real as possible because we'll actually kill people."
Well, and also jumping on events that have already happened naturally. I mean, the UK, there's great examples of that, or in France when it comes to some like Muslim person that is literally just a disturbed person that happens to be Muslim, and they go on some crazy crap and kill a bunch of people, right? And then they instantly go, no, man, it must have been that actually he's really a crisis actor. They're really crisis actors. No one was actually run over by some dude with a truck. Nobody was actually gunned down by some guy wearing a freaking towel on his head or something like that. Nobody, that's entirely fake, right? There reaches a point that it becomes asinine, that it
Yeah, it
becomes
does. Yeah,
ridiculous. And
but
I totally
it's also
agree
asinine that these days you're not allowed to
to even
question the
question it. Yeah.
official. You're not even allowed to question one small thing about the, the official version that you hear in the media,
Yeah,
which
big
is
time.
stupid as well.
Big time. And our last thing that I have to cover here was also out of RT. World headed for silver deficit, according to a report. Global consumption is expected to rise sharply by year's end, resulting in the biggest supply-demand gap in decades. The world is on the brink of a major silver shortage this year. The Silver Institute, a U.S.-based agency monitoring the metal, said in its latest report, global demand for silver from industrial consumers, manufacturers of jewelry, housewares, retail investors is expected to rise to a record 16% against last year, to a new all-time high of 1.21 billion ounces by the end of 2022, according to a report published by the agency's official website. As a result, the silver market is facing a multi-year deficit of 194 million ounces of the metal, 4 times the level seen in 2021, 48 million ounces. Silver inventories in storage in London and New York are tracked by COMEX and the London Bullion Market Exchange, LBMA, were already down by about 370 million ounces, or 25% so far this year, the report stated. The agency notes that one of the major drivers of the rise in silver demand is the surge of consumption by automobile manufacturers when increasing as more which is increasing as more electronics are used in vehicles. The wide adoption of 5G technologies and the global drive towards green energy is also impacting demand. For example, the production of solar panels are increasingly hoarding the metal. Finally, silver demand in India nearly doubled this year as consumers are taking advantage of low prices to replenish inventories that declined in 2020 and 2021, which is so far what I'm seeing here in the United States. Of the people that still have enough money to try and invest right now are getting in the market right now hard for any kind of silver. And we're going big investors to small investors all along the line. It doesn't matter if we're talking, because of course people will say that, what does it matter of grandpa buying 20 pieces of silver or something like that, or investing in like 5 ounces of silver every few months or whatever. That sort of stuff adds up. But then when you get into the fact that there's tons of major inventory buyers and whatnot that are replenishing their stocks of silver and just precious metals in general, yeah, it's and they're going to try and explain it away by whatever they can when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to green economy and all this stuff. But in reality, it is very definitely that people see the writing on the wall when it comes to the economy and it comes to war on the horizon, and that we're going to have major economic crashes if these jerk-offs decide to cut the entire economy's throat.
I think there's going to be. I'm not the only person. I mean, there's lots of people. There's going to be a huge economic crash, and they're going to bring about their government cryptocurrency, which they've already been talking about. The UK Prime Minister's been talking about it, the World Economic Forum, and it's going to be the control mechanism.
I have a
and
feeling
that brings us back to the mark of the beast.
Exactly.
It's going to be the vaccine passport,
yep,
which is linked to the government cryptocurrency, and you only get it if you do as you're told. So maybe we should, as we start to wind down, we'll come back to probably what we always say, and which I really am trying to make a priority in my life, but it's not easy, and I'm nowhere near there at the moment, which is to try and get as far away from the system as possible towards self-sufficiency, supplying your own food somehow. That's the only way to go, and I think we need to be doing that now, because a couple of years down the line, or anywhere from 6 months to 2 years or beyond, of course, it could be that they'll be offering you a government cryptocurrency. All the world currencies may have disappeared, and you can either live with the government crypto, which will control everything you say and do, or you can live as an outlaw but be free.
Well, I definitely think the most important thing that you can try and find in times like these is a surety of self, is happiness internally, and some basic peace of mind when it comes to preparation. I know you're not somebody that's in a position to have big food stores or something like that, or energy stores, but for people that are,
But it's all
that
around
is,
me, Seth. I've got an
yeah,
ocean with full of fish. I've got
yeah.
trees, coconut trees, which I can climb.
Well, and certain
Um,
people aren't living in places where they have that kind of an option,
yeah,
man. I mean,
so
for
either
people in this
either
country, a
yeah,
huge amount of people live in essentially a giant freaking desert for everybody in the
yeah.
Southwest. So,
Everyone's got to see whether they can either live on their surroundings or try and store up food. Yeah,
yeah, well, and medical supplies, things like that, stuff that's important. But
medical
the most
supplies
important
and
thing is trying to find
mm,
your purpose, a sense of worth, and a sense of calm and peace within your life. Is even though working forward with activism and everything can be very important, being at peace with yourself is also incredibly
absolutely, and
important.
not letting it get to you and taking a break. Like the other day, I think I mentioned you, I went kayaking on the sea, and it was just beautiful to get away from it all, just kayaking right out on the sea. Getting close to nature really just recharges you.
Yeah, well, feeling like a human, feeling like you actually have a place connected in this world and everything. And also not losing your identity because of expectations and because you get swept up in this, man. And especially if you're somebody that is involved in a lot of community stuff when it comes to activism, quote unquote conspiracy stuff, anything like that, it can become very easy to have people be like, oh, only normies take a break and disconnect and just be right, and completely let yourself figure out what the hell's going on in your head and what you feel about any of this. Because when you actually take time to think about it, you stop parroting talking points from people that you get like RT, Alex Jones, what David Icke, whatever, and you start thinking about it. And there are certain things that you might still agree with those people when you really take the time and think about it and become as critical as possible of not just them, but of your beliefs as well. There's a synthesis that happens there. And that's more of who you are and what your actual opinions are instead of just repeating the same old talking points. And when,
Absolutely.
especially,
Don't just rely on one of them. I actually listen to a lot of them, and I would say they all have their good and bad points. I
yeah,
listen to Max Egan, Jeff Berwick, Alex Jones, what's his name? A guy called Hagman Report.
oh yeah, Douglas
Um,
Hagman.
Steve Quayle. I quite enjoy listening to Steve Quayle. And a few other people, but all of them, I have maybe a major criticism about all of them. Like Jeff Berwick, for example, I find a little bit smug and stuck up his own ass, but at the same time, he comes out with a lot of good information. Max Egan's actually pretty good, to be honest. He's pretty harmless, and he comes out with some good information. The only thing I'd say against him is sometimes he releases stuff without checking it, and it just turns out to be nonsense. But anyway, I think he's okay. Alex Jones, of course, has got many flaws, but actually during the pandemic, he's got a lot better. He actually defended Elon Musk not reinstating Alex Jones to Twitter the other day, which is bizarre. I mean, Alex Jones's alliance with Trump and Elon Musk is kind of stupid.
You
So
know what I would say with this, and I'm not even going to say anything. But you know,
I don't
Scott.
care. Honestly, I don't care because I've got a lot of criticism of Alex Jones, but I do think there's a good side as well. Like I say with all of them, I think there's a positive and a negative to be taken from all of them. I'm sure some people might listen to us and say the
Yeah.
same thing.
But that's what things I was going to get into is the idea of having a drip feed of media that is coming at you. Keep in mind that if you're on something like social media, be it Twitter, Facebook, whatever, the US government, as well as just major companies, have been experimenting with drip feeding you all sorts of information to like Pavlovian, like illicit responses out of you. So by literally taking the power out of their hands, you're putting it back in your own when you disconnect. Even if your disconnect is only for a few hours, a day, a couple days, a week, a month, a year,
Make
whatever.
sure this is another serious one. Make sure you do listen to normie radio and talk radio and
Yeah.
normie news, because you want to know all sides. And that's not to say you're going to believe it, but you've got to get a flavor of everything rather than just
It also helps with talking to normies. Listening to normie stuff occasionally and seeing what they're being inundated with will literally help you. And I hate to have to say it like this, but dumb down certain things in order to be able to put it at a level that they can get it at. or be able to couch a certain level of.
It's sad but true. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and you have to, because otherwise you're going to be like so outside of the norm that what you're saying, they're going to look at you like you're a freaking space alien or something. They're going to look at
Yeah,
you
I
like
mean,
you're
but
crazy, like you're just
sense is
wearing a tinfoil
this
hat,
is kind
sitting
of
on the
what
floor.
I was saying here. Senses says I try and avoid all media, including the alt media. It's just full
Yeah,
of as agenda as the MSN.
big time.
I don't know.
Big time.
I mean, each to his own. I like to listen to it. Like to listen to alt media and mainstream media and just get a flavor. And I can understand people wanting to ignore all of it, but I don't know. I just like to know what's going on a bit,
Agreed.
because when you get things like the pandemic happening, if you hadn't been looking into stuff before that, then you might wonder what the hell it's all about.
Yeah.
And nobody knows for sure, but I think we've probably got a reasonably good idea of what's right and wrong about it.
Well, and it's weird to think for what the event was for certain people that brought them into stuff, because me, as somebody that's been a part of this for a long enough amount of time that it's just kind of background noise become my life, it seems kind of weird to somebody that their wake up to this was the pandemic. And I'm like, oh wow. Oh wow. Like, dude, you gotta, where do I even start? And they're like, so Seth, what's really going on? I have people that asked me about this, that I literally told them that the jab would be a thing, that they would put out the jab, that they would tell you it was the only safe thing to do, and that it was actually going to kill people and be poisonous and stuff like that. And there were people that literally still took it, that I gave pearls to swine, and now they get to deal with the ramifications.
I asked somebody the other day,
people, man, it's like,
I asked somebody the other day because we were talking about vaccines, and they totally thought that vaccines were good, the COVID vaccines were good, and people should be forced to have them. I won't say who this person was, but and so I said to them, so you think we should totally trust the government and pharmaceutical organizations? And they said, yes, we should. And I just thought, man, that is another level of stupidity. I mean, that's not even conspiracy or alternative thinking. It's just like, just look at the history of pharmaceutical organizations and world governments. You shouldn't trust these people at all. So that's just a fact. It's just a fact, Yep.
Well,
we've probably got a couple of minutes left, because I will have to.
Man, I know that it's been a minute, and I absolutely love doing this. Anytime that you want to, just let me know and we'll set something up. It's nice to be able to talk about this. It's nice to be able to see the people in the chat and talk about that. If we had a little bit more time, and we could try and start something at some other time, a little bit earlier or whatever, it's whenever it works for you, man. But getting to more of stuff with the commenters, addressing what they're talking about and bringing them a little bit more into it. We just had a lot to talk about this time around.
Yeah, and well, we've still got a couple of minutes, so I just wanted to, let's just wind down by doing a bit of housekeeping. Any comments and queries about the show, please email scottsentinel9@gmail.com. Make sure you have the link to Truth Sentinel 2 YouTube channel, because that is the main one. Saying that, Truth Sentinel 2 could still get taken down sometime. At the moment, they're just deleting shows. They're not actually giving me many strikes. I've only got one strike at the moment, so that's good. I do have a website, www.truthsentinel.co.uk. Someone has spammed all of the forums, so I'm going to try and clear that up soon. There's a Facebook page. I know that at some point we probably want to get off all of these apps and websites, but hey, we're just dealing with what we've got at the moment. I mean, I still use companies like PayPal, who last month said they were basically becoming part of the social credit system, and they were going to fine people $2,000 if they sort of went out of line with the official narrative. And I obviously don't want to be involved with that, but kind of at the moment I have to. So
yeah,
I'd love to get off some of these apps, but I like I said, I want to become totally self-sufficient, but I still need to keep in contact with people. And when you're a traveler, social media is the only way you can do it at the moment. When you guys back next? look, we'll try in 4 weeks' time from now. Sometimes it just depends on what's happening in the background because we've both got jobs, we've both got, there's things to deal with. It's been a bit longer this time. I had some health issues. Sometimes we don't. You've got to be in the mood for doing this as well. Sometimes we might be we're like everyone else. We might be feeling a bit down or something, and we need to kind of wait until we're both in the right mood. So, but it should be in about 4 weeks. Hopefully, you get notified. I don't know. Some of you said you still did get notified when once
I'll try and
put
push
the
you
link up.
in like 2 weeks on the 3rd if you want, but I'm pretty sure that if you're busy, if you got stuff going, it's all good, man.
Well, the only time I would do a show earlier is if something huge happened in the world,
Yeah.
and then I might do. If the world's just ticking along, then I like leaving it 4 weeks so there's more to talk
Okay.
about anyway.
Sounds good.
But yeah, you never know if the mood's right. Then who knows? See how it goes. I also wanted to mention that I think I'm gonna post lots of links to previous interviews and things I did, which have kind of disappeared right into the ether of the Truth Sentinel YouTube channel, because there was lots of good interviews there, which some people
download any of it that you can right now and have it available on your website, have it available anywhere else that we possibly can, even sites like BitChute, as terrible as they are, still worth it, man. Still worth it. Even if
actually, you can find a lot of them on truthsentinel.co.uk. There's interviews with a head transplant doctor. There's interviews with Sean Stone, who Seth, actually, that's one of the ways we met, wasn't it? You kind of helped put. Oh, says an error occurred there. Try again. Oh, never mind. Okay. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Good to speak to you, Seth, and I'll see you again in 4 weeks or maybe before. Yeah.
Right on. You have a good one, Scott. It was nice talking to you. Nice talking to everybody there in the chat and whatnot. God bless you. Have a great evening or afternoon or whatever it is where you're at. James Cole, Honestly the Truth, Sir Baron Von Count, Senses Working Overtime, Goremonger 2, Hot Retarded Chicks, Mountain Dew. What is it? I have no idea what those 3 symbols are. Okay. Yeah, anybody else I'm forgetting there? I think that's everybody in the chat, but it was nice to join you guys. Nice to talk with you. Anybody that wants to join us next week or next show there, so like 4 weeks time is about where we're going at there, just let us know and have a good one. Peace.
Yeah, take it easy, everyone. I'll put the outro music on and then we'll say goodbye. So thanks, everyone. It's been good good spending a bit of time with you, and hope to see you again soon. Take it easy, everyone. Goodbye.